Welcome back, IT crowd. Today we have on again Kevin Maxwell. I'm excited to have you here, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Hey, not bad. Boy, we could have talked pre-episode forever. I love having you on. Good back and forth. Local competitor and friend. Good to see you here. Have you on the show. And we have a theme today of protect your most valuable asset. But before we get into that and what it means, how have things been going for you business-wise since the last time we had you on?
Things have been good, man. Things have been good. Right now we're just kind of like doing a lot of behind the scenes work and just really just focusing on operations, and we're pushing to get licensed in a couple different states that are kind of like neighboring to us. So just kind of like really trying to clean house and make sure the operation's nice and tight before we kind of expand.
Yeah, and I like your plans for expansion. They are both broad and concise at the same time. You are trying to take over a big swath of the Northeast. You've hired new people, and you have a really solid game plan. And I'm super stoked to see how you work that out. We're going to see the Kevin Maxwell empire here grow a little bit more.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's one of those things to where it's like, I get bored very easily, and I think
Yeah.
that it's about 7 years in now, like about 6 or 7 years in, and I think that we have a pretty good market share right now in the Capital District and the Hudson Valley area. But I think that like we've had a lot of calls in Massachusetts and in Connecticut and even in Vermont. So for me, it's kind of like it's almost like why wouldn't we, get licensed over there? And we're gonna kind of do like a little bit like so still 2 hour our radius is 2 hours anyway. So we're gonna do a 2 hour radius and kind of almost do like northern Vermont or Western Mass. Like we have the different maps and stuff like that. So kind of like really like building it out slowly over there and just continue to kind of like build our agents, because a lot of our agents are licensed in other states too. So it just kind of makes sense for us to do it, and it's never going to cost us that much to make that move. It's just really a lot more marketing and a lot more ingenuity, and I get bored, so might as well kind of keep things interesting.
Yeah, I think the personality type of I get bored if I'm not
Yeah,
expanding or doing something is what drives a lot of the inspection business. So,
exactly.
guys like you, that's awesome. But going back to our theme today, it's protect our most valuable asset. So, this is going to be a podcast about basically our health as home inspectors. And before you turn down the dial, if you're listening to this saying, well, I only want to hear, business stuff, or I only want to hear about hydrostatic pressure and how to evaluate it, stop for a moment and listen into this because it affects our business very directly,
Oh,
interestingly enough,
100%.
which is, yeah, that's what you brought out when you brought up the subject matter. I know for me, it affected my business very directly because we have a very unhealthy industry. As I was saying before
Very.
the podcast, when I was working construction, I'm working out, I'm going to work, and I'm getting 30,000 steps a day, and I'm just a machine. Then I inspect, and I'm basically a trucker that gets out every once in a while and looks at an attic.
Exactly.
I'm a lot of road time, eating a burger on your way through to try to get to the next
Slice of pizza.
inspection. Pizza, yeah, we have Stewart's around here in the
A
Northeast,
lot
so
of stewards, man. A lot of stewards.
a lot of Stewart's. Yeah, exactly. So we don't always have the luxury, so to speak, of making healthy choices. But listen in because this is an important podcast for us as an industry. So, Kevin, tell us about what brought up this subject in your mind here for us today.
Sure. So I think that this subject is almost it hits everybody in the inspection field because, for me, when I first kind of came in the inspection field, I felt like I didn't really, I guess I was like, I was fit in some ways. So my past experience, I was a building inspector. So I worked for a local municipality around here. So I did that. But like, I was a lot more, I moved around a lot more. I would inspect a lot of big high rise buildings. And I was moving around and then kind of like contrast that to the inspection field to where, you're at home doing a report. And then
Hmm.
after, well, I guess before you're in the field, you might walk a couple hundred steps in a building, but it's a lot of drive time. You're driving around a lot to get to the inspection, to get to the next inspection. And at the same time, you're in the car, you're rushing a little bit. You're going to go to Stewart's or Cumberland Farms or wherever, is a local convenience store. And a lot of it's grab and go food. So you're not eating the best food. A lot of times you're not really drinking that much water.
Hmm.
And, you come back home to the house and, you're sitting in front of the laptop, you're doing a report, and you're eating bad food again, and the cycle kind of continues. So I think for me, what happened was is that I got to the point where so right now I'm 220 pounds, but contrast that to before I was close to be 300 pounds.
Oh,
I
wow.
was basically, 80 pounds overweight. And it just got to the point where I wasn't moving the way I wanted to. But at the same time, you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, hey, like, listen, like, you have high blood pressure, a fatty liver, high cholesterol, low testosterone. The list goes on. You know what I mean? And the problem is the like we have to be efficient when we're in the field. But if you're not really healthy, then you have a lot more brain fog and you don't have that energy, right? So you're trying to drink more energy drinks to kind of keep up to like the demand, and then it's busy season. So now you're flying all over the place, you're grabbing more food, then it's wintertime. So, it becomes a very kind of unhealthy kind of like atmosphere. And then before you know it, you're just like, man, like, it's hard to put this tube butter on my waist, you know what I mean? Because I'm gaining so much weight, So I think for me, I kind of I was forced to almost make a choice. Like, do I actually choose a healthy lifestyle, or do I basically continue to go down that path? And the problem is that, how can you grow your business or have that motivation when you're not motivated because you don't have any energy, So that's a little bit of a pause there, but that's kind of like the little bit of the crossroads I was in.
Yeah, and the spillover of good health into our business, it's real. For me, funny story, the day I decided to lose weight, however many, 10, 15 years ago, when I first started inspecting, same thing, and it sneaks up on you. You feel
Yeah.
good. Like, I take a lot of steps. I
Yeah.
must be walking 10,000 steps. Wear a pedometer. You'd be surprised. On an inspection, you crawl in the crawl space, you're standing at the heating unit. You don't really take as many steps as we might think we do on an
Exactly.
inspection. But 2 years in, my belt broke.
Yeah.
like I'm
You're
out
like,
in the
back to
field, my
super
belt
broke,
goes
man.
ping. I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing. So I had to go to Walmart and get a new belt, and I couldn't wear the same size belt. I'm like, oh man, this is not where I want to be.
Exactly.
So it sneaks up on us. But the brain fog is real, and we don't realize it. It's not just a matter of weight, but it's a matter of, I know a home inspector that had a heart attack because he let himself go. I have a friend in the real estate industry. Sadly, years ago, he passed away from an aneurysm because he had a hard time with the stress. He had a hard time with his health. Some people, unfortunately, self-medicate a little bit with alcohol, and that can lead to, it's a central nervous system depressant, and that's not good for us or our thought process.
Well,
When you
to jump
feel
in on
good,
there real quick too, I was going to say, like, not to cut you off, but I think that's kind of what happened to me. So I think at the height of it all, because it is our profession is actually pretty stressful. It's very mental. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So at the height of it, I was like close to 300 pounds, and for me, like, so very unhealthy, and I didn't have healthy coping mechanisms, right? So I was kind of like, I started, kind of drinking a little bit to kind of try to like, balance it out. You're going to a lot of mixers and stuff. And then it's like, you kind of self-medicate in other different ways. And excuse me, the problem with that is I think is like you said, it's like it kind of like it gets to the point where it's like almost like you're gonna be forced to kind of make a decision. Like, are you gonna continue to stay on that path? And then, or are you going to make a change? And I think that's the issue, right? Is our industry, it's a lot of like, a lot of events and stuff like that. So now you want to maybe have a couple of drinks, and then at the same time you want to, maybe hang out a little bit, and it gets very hard. And like you said, then you start having these health problems, and over time, it's like you almost like if you're not healthy or you don't feel good, then maybe you can't do the amount of inspections that you think you could do, or at the same time we're still trying to, where it's busy season. So now you're trying to do, 2 inspections or 3 inspections or 4 inspections. And it gets to the point where you're super stressed. And like you said, at that point, it gets to the point where it pushes yourself to then, maybe you have, the aneurysm or like the high blood pressure or the heart attack. And these are all real things, I think people don't really think about in the midst of the busy season.
Yeah, and that's why you make a great point, and that's why it sneaks up on us, because when we're in the busy season, we're not thinking about what our stress level is. We'll say, "Oh yeah, I feel good. I feel fine. Oh, I got to get to the next inspection." It's
Yeah,
usually when we hit a wall, like we did a podcast on inspector burnout. It's real. You hit a wall, and then we're like, "Oh man, where'd this come from?" It came from the past 6 months of eating junk
exactly.
food and, having all this stress that we don't think about because, people project too. Like our
Hmm.
clients, they're all very stressed. They're buying a house. They've
Yeah.
searched and they want this one to go well. The agents are stressed because their commission is based on this. And
I had a rough one today, to be honest. Like this one this morning I did, and it was tough because the buyers were so nervous. They
Mhm.
came with their notepads and they're super nervous, and they're like, "What's this crack? What's this? What's that?" And for me personally, like I'm in a really good mental state right now. Like I feel like I'm very
Mhm.
sharp. I'm very on point. My eating is good. I'm sleeping 8 hours a night, so I'm
That's
good.
awesome.
But like if I wasn't as sharp as I was, I don't know how I would have got through that, to be honest. Or maybe after the inspection, I would have started stress eating or something like that, or I would have probably started, maybe grabbed a drink early or something. And now it's like, what am I going to do after this? I'm probably going to go on a walk or something. So I think that's the other side of it, and I think that it's over time. And the problem too is a lot of times we don't have the healthy coping mechanisms because a lot of times as inspectors, maybe we don't want to maybe talk to anybody about it because maybe people don't want to hear it. So now you're kind of bottling that up, and then over time it starts to kind of wear you down. Bad health, bad eating decisions, not working out or being fit, and a lot of stress. It's kind of almost like a perfect concoction for bad things to happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's funny, and maybe you could help us with some suggestions here on things we can do because
Mm-hmm.
we all like to see, everybody likes to say, "Oh yeah, eat healthy and exercise." I remember working. There's another home inspector in our area that's actually he hates being called a health coach, but he was a
Sure.
power lifter and then a bodybuilder, and he teaches people how to eat healthy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I knew. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, just eat less and exercise more. And what I was eating wasn't as healthy as I thought it was.
Yeah. I've
And
been
then
there.
yeah, right. And then
Yeah.
the exercises I was doing and when I was doing them weren't as healthy as I thought they were. Because he's like, well, you're doing aerobics exercises late
Yeah.
in the evening, and that's when your adrenal glands are supposed to be calming down, and then you're
Yeah.
reactivating them, and it was actually making me retain weight. And I'm like, well, how do I know this stuff? So sometimes it comes from a lack of knowledge. And I followed your journey on Facebook. You hired a personal trainer, and not that we have to
Yes.
go the extent that you've gone, but
Sure.
personal trainer, dietitian, from what I understand, somebody to
Mhm.
help you with your nutrition, a nutritionist, and other people to help you. Without going to the extent that you went to, what are some things that you think home inspectors we can do on even just a smaller scale to
Sure.
improve our health?
Yeah, so I think here's the thing, right? So I'm an extremist in everything I do, to be honest, like
Yeah.
very extreme. But what I will say is this, right? So LeBron James, like this has been documented, he spends $1 million a year on his body, and obviously we're not NBA players here, but like home inspectors, like James Gonti says, we should eat well. You know what I mean? Or or
Hmm.
or, or do well, and that's in the context of making money. So if you're making money as a home inspector, you should be able to reinvest a certain amount of money into yourself. So I think for me, like a lot of times people say, well, I don't need to do this or do that. But in my mind, I personally wouldn't be working out if I didn't have a trainer, to be honest. Like, so for me, like, I am I'm very excessive. So beforehand, I did do a lot of workouts myself. But when it gets to be busy, a lot of things go to the wayside, So working out, that gets thrown out the window. Eating healthy gets thrown out the window. So I think we need to have people that hold us accountable, you know what I mean, for our fitness and for our health. So for me, I kind of challenge anybody and I would say if you're making good money, you should have a trainer, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because for me, even if you work out 2 times a week or 3 times a week with a trainer, you'd be surprised if you have someone to hold you accountable and then actually kind of looks at your food and stuff, what results you can have. And you'd be surprised how just more on dialed than you are. So for me, I would suggest or recommend every inspector should have a trainer. If they don't want to do that, that's okay. But it's a higher chance of falling off the bandwagon and then just saying, "Oh, I'll work out tomorrow. Oh, I'll eat good tomorrow." But if you don't have a trainer, I would say at least work out at least 2 to 3 times a week minimum. And if you don't want to work out, honestly, a lot of times when I don't work out, I'll just walk 10,000 steps a day. And to be honest with you, that's maybe a 30-minute walk in the morning and a 30-minute walk at night. You know what I mean? An hour
Hmm.
or so, you know what I mean? Like give or take, you can do 10,000 steps. You know what I mean? Just walking. So, because if you walk 10,000 steps, that's 500 calories right there. You know what I mean? So you're still going to be healthy. But I think the easiest thing for inspectors to do is basically is packing your own food. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Packing your own food and at least downloading like a fitness app. You know what I mean? So they have a lot of apps like Lose It or like MyFitnessPal, and it takes like a lot of this stuff sounds like it's hard to do, but it's very easy. It's just tracking some of your food. So just
Hmm.
kind of managing your calories and basically tracking your food. And in the morning, just kind of like putting a lunch together. So for me, it's like I put like some fruit in the bag. I have, 2 bottles of water, 3 bottles of water. I have some jerky, and I have basically a healthy meal in the bag. So basically, my food is going to be healthy. So I don't eat on the road. I pre-pack all my food every single day. It saves me time, when I'm on the road. But at the same time, my food is going to be clean. And what that does is it kind of puts like everything for me in terms of business has to be autopilot. If I have to think too much about it, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
whether that's booking an inspection, autopilot, you know what I mean? I have, booking like back end staff. But when it comes to like your health, it has to be on autopilot. And I think the problem is a lot of our on the inspection side, we put our health last. And it's so easy to do that. But now when it's first, you know what I mean? You don't have to think about it, So that's kind of why I say, as an inspector, like if you're making good money, it's almost to your best benefit to basically to have a trainer or to eat good or do these different things. And I'll kind of segue to my next point because here's my thing. My success has exponentially increased once I got my health right because
Hmm.
beforehand I felt lethargic. I started feeling like I didn't want to do inspections anymore. I started feeling like I didn't want to get out of the house. I started getting anxiety because I'm like, when you're not healthy, I just think
Hmm.
it really messes with your head. You start getting anxiety, you get anxious. But the minute when you actually start getting more in shape, you get more fit, it's not only a physical thing, but it's also a psychological boost. You have more energy. And then for me, what that's allowed me to do is it actually pushed me to want to expand the business or get back into working in the business. And then I was able to like, do different things with, being featured in the news and stuff. So I just feel like for me, it's almost like your personal growth is also subject to your professional growth.
Hmm.
If your personal growth is going to be low and you're not doing anything in your personal life, you can't really expect your business to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just to add some science behind what you're saying, I follow this neuroscientist. He's kind of famous on YouTube now, but his name's
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Huberman,
Yep.
and he talks about basal dopamine levels. So dopamine and serotonin and all that basically makes us happy. The average person's dopamine levels go below basal levels and then extremely high. So, for instance, we wake up and we feel okay,
Mm-hmm.
but then we go and we eat a sugary breakfast and then caffeine, and then our dopamine levels go really high. But for every high, you have the low afterwards.
Exactly.
So, a sugar crash, essentially. It's the same thing with eating junk food. We feel good in the moment, and then we feel like garbage later. And then what we actually do, according to him, is we lower our basal dopamine level as time goes on. So that's why neuroscientists, and there's lots of stuff involved in depression and anxiety, and not
Of
saying that
course.
all of it's included in that, but he does bring out that a lot of patients see marked improvement, and some even completely overcome their depression and anxiety by their dietary and lifestyle change.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of science behind it. So now, if we have a basal dopamine level that's steady, and we don't have to give up everything. It's not like we
Of
can
course.
never have an ice cream cone ever again, or never
Ice cream is my
drink
favorite,
coffee.
man.
Yeah, right. But some simple changes can help us kind of tune that in a little bit. One thing I'll throw out there is you packing your lunches, and Andrew Huberman always talks about the 80-20 rule. He's like, you don't have to do it perfectly, but make 80%. He's like, just one simple change. There's lots of changes you can make, but if you start off with making 80% of what you eat whole, unprocessed foods, and then 20%, okay, you want a slice of bread or whatever, fine.
Yep.
Make the rest of it whole, unprocessed food. He goes, start from there. Are you feeling better? Cool. Now let's maybe add on the next step. I think that was a great way to say, this is where you can start. Start with your food.
Yeah, I
And
think it's all about starting small. I think you got to
yeah,
start small, and then I think like you got to kind of build your way up from there. But I think the thing about it is that most people, like especially for me, like I'm not gonna lie to you, like our job is kind of like if you're really really overweight, it's hard to be able to walk on the roof.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to be able to climb an attic. And I remember
Hmm.
I had that moment where I got on my attic, and I think my ladder was like weight capacity was like 250 or something. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I get on the ladder, man, and I'm like, man, I'm pushing like 290, 293, man. And I'm like, bro, something has to change. The ladder's starting to kind of move and shake and make popping sounds. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of like on borrowed time here, you know? And I think that it's all about confidence too. Cause I think here's the thing. When you're confident, or how do you get confidence? I think when you're doing the right things, or you're eating good food, or you're in shape as an inspector. Like I think like there's one inspector out here in our industry, like Joe Fasolino. Like,
Hmm.
he was one of my teachers and stuff, and he's in shape and everything like that too. And I just think that like I respect about Joe is like, when you're in shape as an inspector, I think like here's the thing, let's be honest. There's something called the halo effect. When
Hmm.
you're in shape, or you feel good about yourself, you're gonna convey a certain aura
Hmm.
to the agents and stuff. And I think that when you're confident, what that's gonna do is it's gonna attract more business, right? Because people do business with people who they know, like, and trust. So they're gonna see that you look, appealing. You're clean. Everything looks good. You feel confident in yourself. Then now you're gonna be bringing in more business because of that too. So I think that that's the other thing we can't disconnect from, is that when you're in shape, or when you feel good and you're fit, that's another side of it too. You're gonna feel good, and then at the same time, other people are gonna want to do business with you as well. So I think that's a whole other side of the gambit too, to where I know when I walk in a house, I feel good about myself, and I just feel like I can convey a certain level of kind of like confidence, and I feel like I can even do my job better, because I
Hmm.
feel like now I'm doing my job and I feel confident, and since I feel confident, I'm controlling the room better. You know what I mean? So now I'm that much more sharp on inspections, which then increases my level of kind of like, customer satisfaction, which then increases money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hesitated to bring that up before, but it goes back to an episode of The Office where Dwight said,
Mhm.
you put the best looking beats out front. But it's a true statement. I just had a guy come to my house to do he was looking at it doing some epoxy flooring for me. They send a young guy in shape, nice shoes. They're not sending the guy that's 120 pounds overweight and not
Sure.
taking care of himself and feels bad, you
Yeah, yeah,
know, because that's just natural sales. So we don't have to be a beautiful person
of course.
to have good sales, but are we projecting the best version of ourselves?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's very directly related to our health. And let me ask you, sometimes we'll have people on the show. You kind of remind me of Mike Ortiz. If
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
yeah, Mike Ortiz is like, yeah, I post on TikTok like 5 times a day, and then I do this, and I'm like, whoa, okay. Let's level it back to something that most people can do. So
Sure.
let me hear your extreme version of what's your daily or weekly routine. How many times do you work out? Like,
Sure.
um, tell me about it. Just
Yeah,
lay
yeah.
it out
So
there.
it's been an evolution, to be honest. So like for me, I started working out like every day of the week, like 7 days. And right now it's busy season for us, kind of sorta ish. So like right now, I work out my trainer 3 days a week. So like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then basically like during like kind of like the I don't say off days, but basically like during a day like this, I kind of also box too. So basically, I'll kind of go to the boxing gym, basically like 2 more days of the week. So I try to get 5 days a week in, but like at minimum, I do 3 days a week of working out, and then I'll at least like kind of like I'll walk, or I'll walk
Hmm.
like at least 10,000 steps or 15,000 steps on my off days. So I kind of do basically like 5 days a week minimum, and then I'll kind of like switch it up a little bit. So I would say about 3 to 5 days a week. 3 days a week is minimum, but at least for me, I have to move. So as long as I
Hmm.
do 10,000 steps in a day, I'm still very comfortable with that.
And how old are you, Kevin? Do you mind me asking?
I'm 30.
You're 30. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I thought you were a little bit older. You
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
yourself
30
a little bit older.
right in the nose,
No,
man.
not that you look older, you carry yourself older.
Sure, sure. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So for me, I'm in my 40s.
Hmm.
So for me, and with a busy schedule, I don't have a personal trainer. I'm one of those weirdos that if you give me a routine, I will stick to it and just
Yeah,
never.
yeah,
My brain will not let me skip something.
yeah. Hmm.
Call it OCD or whatever you want. For me, I needed to find ways to give into my antisocialness and
Sure.
still get a workout in. So
Yeah,
I got programs. They have online programs, and you do them online, and then you can just kind of do it in your own basement.
sure.
For me, early morning was best.
Early
You
mornings are
know,
good.
yeah, right. So as a home inspector, coming home and then working out,
It's tough.
as that other home inspector mentioned, the health coach that he doesn't like to be called, he goes, "You work out at night, that's okay, but you got to keep your workout less intense." And I'm like, "I want an intense workout. I want to be
Yeah, yeah,
vomiting on the floor when I'm done." I'm like, if I don't vomit, how do I know when I'm done with my workout? So,
yeah, yeah.
um, early mornings worked out best for me. Then I get things going. And a lot of guys worry, well, what if I'm doing leg day and I'm trying to walk around
And
the
I'm not
house?
gonna lie, it is tough though, man. Sometimes you do leg
It's a
day,
real
man. It's
thing.
kind of hard, man, to kind of move
Yeah.
around, but you kind of make it work. I would say, like, for most people, because some guys say, "Oh, I work at 7 days a week." For me, it's like 3 days a week minimum, and
Mm-hmm.
then if I hit five, I'm happy in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like really lifting and stuff. But like I've done research and stuff like that, and like if you're trying to put on muscle and stuff, 3 days a
Mm-hmm.
week is like perfect for like muscle. And then after that, as long as you're kind of moving and stuff, you're in like good shape there. Some people will tell you you got to work out 6 days, 7 days a week. It's kind of
No.
crazy, but it's like for me, it's nice right now. So like Saturday, I'm gonna go on a long hike with some buddies, and we're gonna go on a hike. So I think for me, it's just about like staying active. The morning stuff is good. It all depends on your schedule, but I would say just like as long as you kind of like can like this is a non-negotiable,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna make it happen. You treat it like an inspection. You know what I mean? You treat it like an inspection. Like I'm gonna get this inspection. Same thing you have to do for yourself, and you're putting yourself first. I think the biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing about the inspection realm is, and I think a long time ago you said something on a podcast, and you said basically, if you don't, it's like our business or our life is almost like it's like following around a current. If we're
Mm-hmm.
basically in that current and you don't like, if you don't basically kind of like know where you're going, you're gonna get pulled downstream. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you know, okay, I'm gonna go against the current, you're gonna make it happen. So it's so easy as inspectors to get swept into our day. So you wake up, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and then I got two inspections or three inspections to do. I got reports to do. But it's like for me, I'm very like in my calendar, like I'm very like super like plugged in. So it's hard dates. It's like every week recurring calendar workouts Monday through Wednesday. I pick up the kids at this time. I do this at this time. So everything is super dialed in with the calendar. So like there's no excuse. It just happens. You know what I mean? Like we can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of like brushing your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't leave the house. We don't leave the house without brushing our teeth. It's like, oh, I got to brush my teeth. You don't think,
Yeah.
oh, well, let me just leave. I'm not going to brush my teeth today. Make exercise and meal prep like brushing your teeth. You just don't leave the house without doing it.
Exactly.
And you sleep a lot better. Like you saying, you're sleeping 8 hours a night. I always sleep better when I'm exercising, and it's interesting. You brought out 3 days a week. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I need to work out like this, and I need to sweat it all out." It's like, okay, let's step back, Jenny Craig, and
Yeah.
let's think about this. They talk about hypertrophy, which
Mm-hmm.
is basically the enlarging of your muscles. It's a hormonal reaction more than it is a mechanical reaction. It's not just the breaking down of muscles and rebuilding; it's the building of the muscles through human growth hormone.
Exactly.
And the larger our muscles are, and men and women both, larger and more dense they are, the better our circulatory system works,
Mm-hmm.
the better our heart works, the more our basal dopamine levels end up being better, all of that stuff. And that happens. Bodybuilders work out typically 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, look up if you get a chance. Maybe you're familiar with it. The Geek to Freak workout.
I haven't seen
It
that. No.
Yeah, it's by Tim Ferriss. I don't like him as a human being, but it's really interesting because he breaks down what it takes to be a bodybuilder. And the bodybuilders all look at the program and they go, "Yeah, that's what I do." It's
Yeah.
like.
And I think for me, it's one of those things where I remember back in the day, I used to drink 2 Red Bulls, man, in the morning, man. I used
Oh,
to
dude.
have like 2 Red Bulls, a breakfast sandwich, sometimes 2 breakfast sandwiches. And it just was like, yeah, I would feel just so sluggish, man. And it's like now I have so much energy, and now I'm taking that energy, I'm putting it back into the business. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's what it has to come down to. Cause it's like, for me, it's like if you're not healthy or fit, or, you're not eating right, or you're just off, how are you going to be able to really give your clients the best service? And
Yeah.
how are you going to really be able to to do everything we do? Because our job is not for the weak. We have
Yeah.
to continue to market ourselves, do these reports in fast, and everybody wants reports fast now. But back in the day, I'm sure, because you've been in the industry for so long, before you probably could tell them I'll get the report done in 3 to 5 days or something. Now it's
Yeah.
like people want reports on site, or they want reports by the end of the day. It just
Yeah.
doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's true. The pressure is a lot higher than it used to be. I remember when I started offering reports 24 hours,
Yeah.
and other home inspectors laughed at me. They're like, "That's stupid." And agents are like, "Really?" Now it's like you're leaving the inspection and they're like, "Is my report there yet?" I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just like give me a minute." But there's some little things that we can do as inspectors. If we have software, like if you're using Inspector Toolbelt or another software, finish your report on your phone and
Exactly.
walk while you're doing it. Walk around your backyard, look like a weirdo. It doesn't matter.
Well, so that's what I do. So honestly, to be honest, after I get out of here, I got 2 reports to do. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to have music on, or probably listen to your podcast, some episodes. 'Cause I got to catch up. I listen to every single podcast from this guy, man. But
Oh,
it's like
thanks, man.
I'm going to catch up on the podcast and do my report while I'm walking. So for me, it's like I'm still like, there's no excuse really if you think about it. Like it's like
Yeah.
you can walk and do a report. You can go to a park, walk around, look around, enjoy the fresh air, and you could still you know what I mean? And honestly, it makes me get reports done faster. So,
Hmm.
I think that we can always have excuses for our health if we want to have an excuse. But, if we don't take accountability for it now, later it's going to catch up to us. So I think it's one of those things where even just walking, you don't got to run a marathon. You don't got to, have a trainer. You could just walk. You know what I mean?
Yep. Walking is one of the healthiest things that you can possibly do.
It
And
is.
it's good on your knees. It's good for your cardiovascular system. It's, I forget what they call it, but basically it's a type of steady state cardio. That's what it
Mhm.
is. So it basically just raises things just enough to make things better.
Exactly.
It's awesome. I make it a habit of every time I take a phone call, the first thing I do is I stand up and I start walking by
That's
nature
smart,
now.
man. That's smart.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's around my office or wherever, and I do it by nature so that if I'm sitting down, it feels weird. So
Yeah.
we can turn it into habits. Let me ask you about your what kind of eating habits can you recommend to everybody? Like, what are
Sure.
some?
So,
How
so
does
for
your food look?
yeah. So I've kind of like that's been an evolution too, because before I was into like kind of like the keto diet and things like
Hmm.
that. So I was like super like no carbs and all like meat and stuff. Now I'm very big and more into macros now. So basically, kind of tracking more heavier protein,
Hmm.
carbs, and kind of like fat and stuff. So, but for me, to be honest with you, like my meals are the same kind of every day in a way. So like every
Hmm.
morning for me, I have like 4 eggs because eggs are good for you. Very like
Yeah.
whole foods. So I have 4 eggs, organic. Have like kind of a salad with that. I have a cup of espresso. So I have like some coffee. Really no sugar in that. So super light on that. And then for lunch, I meal prep. So basically on Sundays, I make a lot of food. So basically I'll kind of switch it up. So this week I did kind of like chicken breast, and I did I think it was like chicken breast and some ground turkey. So I'll kind of do basically kind of like sit like basically kind of same foods for during like for lunches and stuff.
Hmm.
So I'll have that, and then I'll have basically kind of like some fruits and stuff, and basically kind of like some jerky. So it's more heavy on the protein side because I think it's pretty satiating. And then
Hmm.
for dinner, a lot of times I'll have it kind of depends on what I want. I might have a steak for dinner, steak and potatoes, or maybe if after workout I really don't want that much, I might just have a protein shake. So
Hmm.
you'd be surprised as you kind of start to get more active and you eat like more protein, you actually crave less food, to be
Hmm.
honest. So my calories aren't super high, to be honest. Like a lot of times it might be 2,000 calories a day or 2,200 calories a day. I have a food tracker, and it makes it easy. So I track my food and I track my water intake. And basically for me, it's very simple. So I think Monday through Friday, very simple on the food, and on the weekends, I kind of like I'm not saying I splurge, but maybe at that point I might have a little bit more to eat. I kind of increase my calories higher on the weekends.
Hmm.
I'll have some ice cream or something like that, or at that point, I kind of have like I'll go out to eat with some friends. So I just try to kind of keep my food very basic during the week, so it kind of mitigates decision fatigue. And then the weekends, if I have more time, I'll eat kind of whatever I want.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because that's what a lot of health experts say. You know, during the week, keep things simple, meal prep, and focus on protein.
Hmm.
That's one thing that we don't do as a society. We tend to focus on carbohydrates. We're very
Exactly.
carbohydrate dense, but we don't need to cut out carbohydrates. Simple carbs, white bread. I,
Hmm.
I just feel like we shouldn't be eating white bread.
Yeah, more
But
like jasmine rice and maybe even having like,
yeah,
oatmeal and sweet potatoes, like more
yeah,
complex stuff. Stuff that, because I think for me, inspectors too, you're in the field, you want to have stuff that's going to keep you full. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
for me, I always have breakfast every day, but I make sure I have stuff that's going to keep me full, keep me energized, because our jobs are very like, it requires a lot of energy to talk to somebody for 2 hours
Hmm.
and look around the house and do a report at the same time and move around, climb in the attic, climb on a roof. So you want to have food that's going to give you energy. You don't need to eat, because for me, my diet before was I would go to Stewart's, I'd get 2 slices of pizza, I'd have a Red Bull or a Monster, and then I'd have a bag of chips. You know what I mean? And that
Hmm.
was just every day, man. And then, but like I always felt I had lethargic, so I had to double back, have another Monster, have another energy drink. So it's a lot of like up and downs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we don't want those up and downs. We
No,
want ups and downs very mildly, hanging
exactly.
right around that basal dopamine level, not the big spikes and the big drops. So that's good advice. And you know, it it's still living. Have an ice
Well,
cream cone once in a while. If you want a cold beer on a Sunday to watch the game,
exactly.
go for it.
Yeah, it's just still living, because I think like that's what, but it's like you enjoy it more if you
Hmm.
don't have it every day. You know what I mean? If I don't have ice cream that often and I do on a weekend, it makes me enjoy it more. But I think the big thing I want to mention too is just for all inspectors, especially like males, but females too, you know, go to the doctor, actually get a checkup. Because I think a lot of
Yeah.
inspectors or men in general, or mostly men, we don't want to go to the doctors. And when I went to the doctor, man, it was bad, because I'm like, the doctor's like, basically your blood pressure's high, your cholesterol's high, your liver's fatty, your testosterone's low, your thyroid is hyperthyroid. It was just basically like if you don't stop doing this, man, you're not going to probably be like, you're going to be bad. So I
Yeah.
think like, as we should go to the doctors and get a checkup, every 6 months or at least once a year, and for me, I think that's going to let you know where you're at. Because for me, the biggest thing that I kind of want to like end on here, which most people don't think about it, is for men, testosterone. Like
Hmm.
when you're overweight, your testosterone tends to be lower. And when you're not eating good foods, your testosterone's lower. If you have a low testosterone, what happens is you feel a lot more lethargic. You get more anxiety, more anxious around people, and you basically don't have that drive and that zeal for life. So for me, a lot of my issues were testosterone related.
Hmm.
So once they try to prescribe a lot of medications, I didn't take any of them. I'm more like not on the medication bandwagon. I'd rather fix it myself, and I
Yeah.
did. And once I fixed my testosterone, I noticed I had more of like that primal drive to compete again and be competitive again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean it's the quote unquote man hormone. I mean
Yeah.
we need it to do what we do. Women need it too. It's just at different
Hmm.
levels. But it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been to a doctor once in the past 12 years. So I should probably schedule a doctor's visit after this. So thank you for the reminder, Kevin.
I see mine too
But
much, man. I'm in there a lot.
yeah, no, but it is true. We don't like to face our own mortality, and we don't like people touching our stuff.
Yeah.
In a room with a dude, and you're like, all right, this is odd. We don't like getting poked with our needles and blood taken, but you know what? It's part of life. And it is, as we stated at the beginning of this podcast, our most valuable asset. If we don't take care of our car, it's not going to drive us to the inspection. We're going to lose work. If we don't take care of
Exactly.
our body, same thing's going to happen. So
Yeah.
you're a good example of that. And if you don't mind me, just to kind of take us out here, how long did it take you to go from 300 pounds to 220? How tall
So
are you?
yeah, so I'm 5'11". So I'm 5'11".
You seem
So yeah,
taller.
Yeah. Well, I look like I'm like 6 feet tall, but I'm 5'11" and a half. So I round up these
Oh,
days.
okay.
But yeah, so I lost 80 pounds, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty crazy. So I'm kind of psycho. So I lost that weight in about like 7/8 months.
Oh, wow.
So it was basically about like 10 pounds a month. So I was kind of on the higher side, so I was super like dialed in. So basically, like, my eating habits were very clean. My working out habits were a lot. I moved a lot, so I did a lot there. So basically about like 7, 8 months, I lost 80 pounds. And, just because for me, I just feel like, as business owners, a lot of us, we're very focused people. Like, I
Hmm.
think like that's something about people who own businesses is like, I think you take that same energy that you put in your business and put it into yourself. And when you
Hmm.
do that, you'd be surprised the amount of results you can have, whether it be in yourself, in your relationship, your marriage, your finances, but a lot of times we're just focused on the inspection, but you'd be surprised when you have a good body or you have a good relationship or you have good finances, that allows you to have more time to actually redirect it into your business.
Yep. And you're a great example of that, Kevin. Your growth in your business and your new hires and your expansion into other states, all a testament to, a lot of things, but in part, as you mentioned, to your health.
I
So
appreciate that, man.
thank you. I think this is valuable information for all of our listeners. And thanks for reaching out and thanks for being on the show. I love that you're a regular guest now, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Be back again soon, man. All
Thanks, Kevin. Talk soon.
right.